guys, I hope you are well, or as well as you can be, given the circumstances of existing during this Mercury retrograde. I literally, in all of my years of existing, but also in all of my years of being aware of like Mercury retrogrades, which is a lot of years, honey, there hasn't been one quite like this one. There hasn't. Hi, thank you for joining. This Mercury retrograde has just completely made itself loud and aware and known, especially, I mean, the entire internet basically like breaking yesterday, which the entire time, as someone who like, me just totally rambling, as someone who has built a lot of their career on social media, I was praying that Instagram didn't come back. Hi guys, thank you for joining. But it is back, and so am I. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the new moon tomorrow in Libra, because it's such a good transit that I just don't want anyone to miss the opportunity to work with this transit, because not only do we have the new moon tomorrow in Libra, we love her, but we also have Pluto and Saturn moving direct, which a part of the reason why life has been so, maybe you're like, girl, what are you talking about? I'm fine. If life has been chaotic for you, same. It's also because Mercury is not the only planet that's in retrograde. We have like a trillion planets in retrograde. Almost hoped to, I was praying Instagram would not return, but here we are. So, I mean, I'm grateful for you the same way. Let me not say the wrong thing, child, but yeah. So we had a trillion planets in retrograde as well. And tomorrow, two major planets, Pluto and Saturn, are going back direct, and that is going to alleviate such a amount of pressure. We're really going to feel it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what that's going to feel like, how to alchemize the energy. So the first thing that I would say is that, should I start with Pluto? Okay, yeah. Well, the thing is, with these two major planets going direct, we are really going to sort of like tie up the stories that they've started in our lives. And so when we have two planets, you know, it's different if like Venus is in retrograde or Mars, you know, which are of course prominent planets, but Saturn and Pluto both play a very important role when it comes to teaching us lessons and aiding our evolution, right? Like Pluto is all about looking at what's deep in our subconscious and what needs to be healed and what needs to be looked at and which ways are we acting from wounds. And Saturn, oh girl, and Saturn is all about discipline and karmic roles that we've been playing in our own lives and how can we finally move beyond our own limitations. So them both being in retrograde for as long as they've been has really just been like, sort of like just a storm coming right over us and kind of like lingering until we learn what the fuck it is that they're kind of like yelling at us to look at within our own mirror. So now that they're finally going direct, there is a lesson of like, okay, or not a moment, but there's not a lesson. There's a moment in reflecting on the lesson that we have learned in this period of them being retrograde. And when it comes to Pluto and Saturn, it's in what ways have you been your own source of limitation? For Pluto, it's in what ways have you been acting on your own fears, limiting yourself because of the wounds that you look at and use as a lens. Really deep stuff. And know that because of the role that they've been playing in retrograde, there's probably been a lot that's felt stuck or stagnant or just like this air of pressure on us that we didn't really know how to move through. So finally having those move direct on the same day as a new moon in Libra, honey, oh my God, orgasmic. We needed this, and it's gonna feel so good, because if there's any way that I could describe this, it's sort of like, it's what it means to finally move forward, and whatever that looks like for you, and what area of your life, especially that's been ruled by Libra, or any like major fixed placements, like just whatever has felt like, oh, I can't get through this lesson. I can't alchemize this lesson. I can't seem to break through this cycle, particularly when it comes to cycles. This is finally going to be the time where it suddenly is easier, where the pressure is suddenly alleviated, but it also takes you owning up to the action that is being called of you to move through these toxic cycles. So toxic cycles and just ways that you have been just honestly anchoring in your own state of disempowerment are finally going to be moved through, because I mean, with Pluto and Saturn being such major planets that hold like such huge weight when it comes to our own evolution finally going direct, honestly, once again on the same day as this new moon, it's just so fated. So a lot of fated events are taking place right now, and like the only thing I would say to that is that if you all of a sudden have this like intuitive hunch to like go somewhere you don't normally go, or like take a trip somewhere you don't normally take a trip to, or just like reach out to someone you don't normally reach out to, really follow those intuitive hunches right now, particularly because there's just something really karmic and fated about everything that's happening right now. So you don't know what action is going to lead you where and where that will lead you, but just follow those hunches and take random leaps of faith right now, because fated events are really loud. But ultimately, it's all about alchemizing the lessons that you have learned in this period of reflection and sort of like figuring out, okay, in what ways am I my own cause of trouble? But with the new moon being in Libra, what's really being highlighted right now is, and we can alchemize any lessons that we've learned under Pluto and Saturn retrograde into relationships. So like, what have you learned about relationships? I know so many people right now, like at least like 7 that are going through like breakups or that are going through some sort of shift in their relationships. And though this doesn't necessarily have to mean how we're relating to others externally, hi, thank you for joining. This also has a lot to do with the relationships that we have with ourselves. But right now, it's really, really important to reflect on, like, what have I learned through this period of reflection and integration and breaking down and rebuilding that I can pour into how I am approaching and experiencing the relationships in my life? Have I been settling in some kind of way? Have I been, or am I the reason why someone else is settling? Like, in what ways am I acting from my own toxic lens? Really being aware of like how you can start new patterns when it comes to the relationships you call in. And it's funny because right now, like a beautiful exercise I would invite you to do, if you're calling in a relationship in your life, or if you want to sort of like rebuild and revitalize a relationship that you currently have, now would be such, especially tomorrow, like tomorrow itself would be such a good time to like really do some like writing power and sit down and like write through exactly what it is that you want to feel in your relationship with yourself or with your romantic partner. If you're calling in new friendships, if you're calling in healing within like a familial relationship, like what is it that you want to experience? How do you want it to be? What do you want it to look like? But the thing is, honey, because we are still in Mercury retrograde, there's something about Mercury retrograde that can make us really reflective, and sometimes we can look at our past through a rose-colored lens. We can want things that we have already outgrown, and so it's important that when we are calling in new things for the relationships in our lives, that we're not doing so from a state of like, I remember how good it was with this person and I want something like that again, or like, you know, calling in a cycle that we are, or rather that the universe is so badly wanting us to evolve out of. So recognize like when you want something from your past again, and rather when you want like the feeling of something in your past, like missing your ex versus missing the feeling of home that you had within a person, right? Like separate the person from the emotion and recognize what have you actually grown out of? What do you crave from partnership that is actually just like you staying in some sort of comfort zone, you acting on some sort of trauma response, and like what have all the lessons that Pluto and Saturn have taught you within the past months that has shown you how capable you are of having something that's evolved. I hope that made sense. It did to me, but yeah, I talk a lot. Also, detoxifying your life. I feel like that's just kind of like a general thing, but detoxification really, really keeps coming up as like a key word right now, especially with Pluto going direct. So like, in what ways is there toxicity in your life? Whether it's in relationships are at the forefront, but also just like the actions you're taking every single day, the ways in which you are expelling your energy excessively, what in your life feels toxic, in the like commercial aspect of what toxicity looks like, but also just like, for example, like being so overtly dedicated to your health that you don't allow yourself to move out of your own rigid like diet or way of living is a toxic way of living. So like toxic can be masked in something that's good for you. So just in what ways are you living toxically and how can you move out of that? And ultimately, yeah, when manifesting, be careful not to call in what's familiar because of the fact that you've been reflecting. So move past what's familiar and honor and call in what you know you have learned and alchemize these lessons into being capable of owning and handling and nourishing. Once again, I hope that made sense. And ultimately, yeah, just choose forward. Honestly, with Saturn and Pluto going direct, anything that has felt stuck, anything that you've been trying to push through that just won't pop, right now is finally going to be alleviated. So like choose what forward looks like for you and just honor that. Honor whatever forward looks like for you and make sure that you are not in any way letting in the past sort of like weasel its way in a different kind of clothing to like, to satisfy what feels familiar. Thank you for joining, my loves. And yeah, that's basically it. But like I said, a beautiful exercise right now would really be to like write down what is it that you desire in partnerships. And, you know, like I said, this doesn't have to be romantic, but really focus not on like, I want someone who's tall and makes a lot of money. Like you deserve that, honey. But also just like, really focusing on get hyper clear on the feeling that you desire, what it means for your worth to be valued within your relationships, platonic, friendships, familial. Like, what does it mean for you to stand in the embodiment of your own evolution and to have that be honored in the relationships that you're having in your life? And also with this new moon in Libra and Pluto, of course, going direct, some people may get cut off. This is also, if there's like a relationship in your life that is not honoring your worth, that you really like have been wanting to speak on, now is the time to speak on it. We don't typically like advise to do like big conversations during Mercury retrograde, but this one is so healing. Thank you, honey. This one is so good for healing and for detoxification of your life, that like I would have those conversations. I don't know if right now is the time for like making set in stone actions. Like, if you want to break, I know some people who are going through breakups right now, but like if you don't necessarily want to break up with someone, or don't know if you're in the space where you want to break up with someone, or initiate a new relationship, I would hold off until after the retrograde. But have the conversation, speak on your worth, speak on your needs, because right now they're really getting highlighted. Follow those intuitive hunches. Let yourself skew off of your own routine for a little bit, because there are so many fated events happening right now that like you're going to find yourself exactly where you need to be if you let yourself be guided by body rather than by plan. And that's basically it, especially when it comes to relationships you have and their caliber. Really speak on it, honey. Hugs to you. Yeah, that's honestly mainly what I wanted to share. Overall, this is a massive shift when it comes to your freedom from toxic cycles, and just tremendous breakthroughs in love and also in money. So I'll leave you with that. Honestly, working on a budget right now, really recalibrating your relationship with how you're spending your money, how you honor your money, and how deserving you feel of money. I need to work on that. I'm realizing now as I say that I have been overspending. I wonder where that's stemming from. Anyway, I love you guys so much. Really use tomorrow as an opportunity to like just reflect on the lessons that you learned and act upon them, right? It's not just about learning lessons. Lessons are nothing if they're yelled at you. But if you're integrating them, and if you are honoring them and alchemizing them into action, into a way of living, that's where the true growth happens. So what have you learned about relationships and your worth in them? And how can you speak on those and act alongside those when it comes to your relationships with others and with yourself? I am going to go eat again. Love you guys so much, and I hope you have an amazing new moon. Bye.